Hey, what's up, everybody? Now, we all know that the political scene can be disastrous at times, especially with the quote unquote big, beautiful bill, what Donald Trump is calling it. But the Republican senators are all now stating to the House GOP who got this bill passed, you need to strip it down, like to the bare bones, because stuff in it is not budgetary. Senate Republicans are demanding that the House GOP re-vote on President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, with a series of changes to allow it to comply with Senate rules, and has caught many lawmakers in the lower chamber off guard, reported to Politico on Tuesday. If the flagged items aren't deleted, the bill won't enjoy special party line treatment in the Senate, and the filibuster would be enforced for passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Republicans want to enact this summer, said the report. In response, House GOP leaders plan to tee up a vote this week to nix specific provisions the Senate parliamentarian has identified as rule violations. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise admitted the full list of changes Senate Republicans demanded took House leadership by surprise. Yeah, right here.
Some days I'm sure you don't know, right?
You don't know, but I always say expect the unexpected, and that's in fact what we've been doing. We've been preparing since I've been chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee for this moment. So over 2.5 years in educating all of my members about the expiring tax provisions and all different aspects of the tax code to help deliver the tax portion of the One Big Beautiful Bill.
You know what? I think you were there yesterday, and I saw everyone. I saw David Solomon and Dara and Michael Dell, and one of the funny lines was to fund these accounts. If you took what Gavin Newsom has spent on that rail, whatever that was, that pipe dream of what they were building, and it's 100 times over budget or something. You could have, I think they said you could have set up health accounts for 40 billion of our children, which we don't have.
That's exactly right. It would have funded for every children and then some, according to the comments that was made yesterday at that roundtable. This is a very small investment that you can do for the future of America to allow them to have ownership in America's economy, where they have an investment fund created when they are born, and they watch it grow. They see the involvement and being involved with the stock market is extremely important. Roughly 60% of Americans are involved in the stock market. This allows every child that's born from here on out for the next several years, whether that they live on a city block or on a county road, they're treated the same.
This is the likelihood that this comes to fruition. What do you think it is at this point?
It's a priority of President Trump. It has his signature name on it, the Trump investment accounts. I see that we had no problem passing in the House of Representatives. I would expect the Senate would also maintain the president's priorities and help putting it on his desk. It is the right thing to do for families. This tax bill is the right thing to do for pro-growth policies, for small businesses. The Senate's going to deliver their side of the agreement.
What do you think is coming back to you from the Senate? If you had to guess, what's it going to look like?
Well, the Senate's having to do the same balancing act that we did in the House. We had to thread a very careful needle, could only lose a couple members. They can only lose a couple senators, but they're dealing with the same dynamics that we had, whether it is the debt and deficit hawks that want to cut more spending, or whether it is people who do not like SALT. Of course, there's not a Republican senator representing a SALT state. That's a dynamic that we had in the House. They also have to look at all the green credits. That's something that creates a lot of interest. Some people want to eliminate every green credit, and others want to use a scalpel approach. So it's all about balance. They have to thread that needle. They can't make fatal changes to the bill that could be a vote issue over in the House, and they know what those fatal changes are.
I wonder how it all plays out, but you're right. And we had Senator Johnson last week, and it reminds me of the way President Trump negotiates sometimes. Everybody stakes out these positions that supposedly there's going to be no negotiating. But Mr. Chairman, when it comes down to it, everybody knows what the margin is in the House and what the margin is in the Senate. So no matter where you're sitting and how intractable you seem to be, you think it's finally going to, they know that, and they're finally going to agree on something because it has to be done by July 4th?
Without a doubt, failure is not an option. We're going to make sure that the largest tax increase on America does not happen. We're going to, in fact, make sure that they have the largest tax cut. And we're also going to make sure it's the largest mandatory spending cut in U.S. history and the most significant welfare reforms in U.S. history. These are all things that we can agree on. We're going to get there. Failure is not an option. People want to make some tweaks and changes here and there, but we're going to get it on the president's desk by July 4th.
Chairman Smith, when you say the fatal positions that the senators know, are you talking SALT and Medicaid? Only because we've had a number of Republican senators who have come on here and trashed those positions and said they won't vote for anything that has those positions that the House has sent over in their bill.
The fatal positions are the ones that require 218 in the House and 51 in the Senate. If it takes away from those votes, it's a fatal position. We have the smallest majority in the history of America when you've passed such a razor-thin tax bill. And so the water has to be tread very carefully, and they're doing that. I'm very proud of the work that Leader Thune and Chairman Crapo, we've been working hand in glove with them for months now for this moment. They're going to deliver a good product that we can get across the finish line on the president's desk.
But you know the fatal positions. They apparently know the fatal positions. We don't. Which ones are they?
You'll figure that out as the process moves along. But it's very easy. It's like what I said, Becky, whether you look at SALT, whether you look at the green credits, whether you look at spending cuts with debt and deficit hawks, but also folks that are very sensitive to spending. Those are fatal issues if you go too far in any direction. That's why it's all about balance and just threading that needle.
Okay, you see right there that Congressman Jason Smith was dodging a few of her questions. Because, yes, quite a few Republican senators have stated they don't want Medicaid cuts in this quote unquote big, beautiful bill. Josh Hawley, especially out of the state of Missouri, doesn't want Medicaid cuts. And Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, the state of Louisiana, where he's representative of, has the biggest Medicare and Medicaid population in the state of Louisiana. And one thing they want taken out of the big, beautiful bill is a controversial provision that was basically snuck in there, which is section 70302, which would restrict federal judges from enforcing contempt of court orders. Yep. The language in question, tucked into 70302 without any clear relation to the rest of the bill's provisions on tax breaks for the wealthy, which the wealthy don't deserve tax breaks. They need to pay their fair share. Or Medicaid or food stamp cuts would make it almost impossible for federal judges to enforce civil contempt penalties against Trump administration officials who openly defy court orders by requiring plaintiffs to pay a bond. But although it passed the House by one vote, guys, by one vote, Senator Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, is pouring cold water on this provision moving forward. According to Political's Jordan Carney, Grassley tells me he had a meeting yesterday on House contempt citation language tucked in reconciliation bill. The House's plan isn't birdable, and at very least provision will have to be modified. Carney added that Grassley said he didn't hear the decision in the meeting about what will happen with this text. By birdable, Grassley is referring to the Byrd Rule, a long-standing requirement that any element of the budget bill in the Senate must be primarily related to the budget in order to be eligible to pass under reconciliation rules. This is essential because Republicans need to pass the legislation with Republican votes only and don't have the votes to end a Democratic filibuster, with which a reconciliation bill would bypasses. Several other elements of the bill are at risk of being stripped out under the Byrd Rule, as well as including a revenge tax that imposes a higher rate on foreign companies if this provision is ruled out of order by the Senate parliamentarian. It could blow $116 billion hole in the bill and leave the GOP scrambling to make up that revenue somewhere else. You see how they like to sneak stuff in? And mind you, the big, beautiful bill was voted on in the middle of the night. While we all were sleeping, this bill was voted on in the House. And it passed by one vote. One. And now the Republicans in the House are going to even have a narrower majority because Representative Mark Green is resigning after this vote for one more time for the big, beautiful bill, which I call it the big, ugly bill. He is resigning, so which means in the House, it would be 215 to 215. A dead tie. Let's see how much of the Trump agenda gets out or passes the House now with it being a dead tie. This is the Patriot Podcast channel. Please like, subscribe, and comment on this video. And make sure you leave a comment on what you want me to cover next. Y'all just have a good night. Peace.
Like you, be strong.